So this woman was Donald Trump's deputy press secretary for the end of his term in 2020. Until January 6th, she resigned after the shit went down at the Capitol. But she had been a campaign spokesperson for him during the 2020 campaign. And then she was his deputy press secretary for the last 7 months of his term.
What does your experience tell you about how you see this evolution of what the statement is? Is it that there's just an initial denial with the idea that maybe the story goes away, and as it doesn't go away, you have to come up with new things? Are people talking to him about, you might not want to say this, you might want to say that, or is it just he's flying solo and putting out whatever comes to mind? How do you imagine the reaction to the Epstein stuff is developing?
I think it's largely Trump dictating the strategy and him just throwing whatever he can at the wall and seeing what will stick. I think he thought most controversies that he's faced in the past, he is like Teflon. It seems like nothing has an ability to stick with him, and that the news cycle kind of quickly moves on and
arrogant
we shift into the next topic. And so this is kind of uncharted territory where it seems like he is like so arrogant with the changing of the news cycle and the fact that he can just lie and bullshit his way out of it. I mean, think about it, guys. They've let him for 5 years insist that he won the election in 2020, and nobody's ever really given him any consequences for that. I mean, even Tucker Carlson got some consequences of being fired from Fox because of the Dominion voting judgment, right? But Trump has had no consequences. And now, like, you know, he's like, oh, you're still talking about Epstein? He's got to be truly baffled that it's just not instantaneously evaporating. Isn't used to a story sticking around for this long. And so I can tell that he's getting frustrated with it. And that's where you see him throwing out these different excuses where you have the White House strategy was clearly for them to say, no, look, he thought Epstein was a creep, and that's why he kicked him out of his club. And Trump obviously had a different strategy. He decided to go with no, it's the Obama and Comey, they're after me. It's like Russia, 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 witch hunt. And I think he thought that would play into his base and get them riled up. But obviously this issue goes so much deeper for his base. It's something that they are really invested in. And so they're not being fooled by his distractions or his lies that he's trying to come up with and spin. And so, and then now we've seen him shift to, oh, well, it was over a business dispute. He was poaching people from the club. And so it's interesting because, like you mentioned, not all of these things can make sense. They don't necessarily seem to go together. And so it makes me curious what the truth is. And I think we're inching a little bit closer toward the truth. I do think that more than likely it had to do with him getting upset with Epstein over maybe repeatedly poaching people from Mar-a-Lago. And I think that there's a reason behind that because I believe that Trump knew what Epstein was up to.
Absolutely.
And, specifically, when Trump was asked about it on a recent gaggle on Air Force One, he was asked about how these were young women that Epstein was poaching. And he acknowledged that one of those women was one of Epstein's accusers who worked at Mar-a-Lago. And she was approached by Ghislaine Maxwell.
See, that's the key. There is no doubt, guys, that Trump knew. I mean, think about it. Think about Trump's excuse to say, yes, I severed my relationship with Jeffrey Epstein because he was stealing girls from Mar-a-Lago. But like, if he was just like hiring girls from the spa to go work in his office, you wouldn't sever a relationship, right? Why are you hiring all my girls? I'm going to pay them more so they don't leave Mar-a-Lago to go work for you. Like, he knew what Jeffrey Epstein poaching these girls, he knew exactly what that meant for the girls. And that's becoming glaringly obvious, which is why he called Epstein a creep It's why he severed the relationship, kicked him out of the club, because he knew those girls were going into the sex trade, because he knew what Jeffrey Epstein's trade was. Obviously. Otherwise, this would have been a non-issue. Epstein was only stealing young girls. The same Jeffrey Epstein that he said, yeah, he likes girls as much as I do, but he likes them on the young side. You know what I mean? Like, we know, like, without a doubt that like, you know, at the very least, without Trump even admitting his guilt in the sexual participation, Trump has basically admitted that he knew what Epstein's business was. He knew it. We know he knew it. We know he was involved in it, but this was quite a startling admission for him. I was really surprised to hear him go that route, right? He had stuck to his story that Jeffrey was a creep and he kicked him out. I don't know why Trump decided to go with, you know, to dredge up 𝗣𝗢𝗟 and the whole Mar-a-Lago thing. I feel like it's going to bite him in the ass in the end. I think it's going to really come back to haunt him.
When she was 16. And so it leads one to believe, if you're kind of connecting the dots here, that Trump knew what Epstein was poaching them for and using them for work for, because it's not like
100%.
Epstein had his own golf club or resort that he needed these people to come work at. So what was he using them for work for? And I think that, you know, one can kind of connect the dots and see that Trump probably had insight into what Epstein was doing and what he was up to. And so I just think that that's pretty damning, though, when you look at it, because I think that Trump may present it as like this was some heroic act, like, oh, I kicked him out of my club. But at the end of the day, I think a normal, decent human being who had that type of insider knowledge would have called the cops
immediately.
Would have said, hey, this guy is partaking in child human trafficking.
Yeah, you know what's funny is a normal human being would have turned him in long before he poached your employees from your club, right? You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like, a normal human being would have gotten out of there long time before that. Oh, you're a child sex trafficker? Yeah. Let's fucking put a stop to that right now, dude.
And tip them off. So
that's interesting that that's your view, because that's kind of where I'm landing. And I know that there are people who are saying, oh, what Trump's covering up is that he was a client of Epstein's, and, you know, there were these girls that Trump was involved in.
He was definitely a client too.
Assault of. And I mean, listen, if at some point there's evidence of that, certainly that would be huge.
Dude, I know he was a client. I just know it in my fucking bones. But even without it, this is kind of what I said before, that even without it, it still harms him, because even if he was never a client, he knew it was going on and he let it go on around him in Mar-a-Lago. He let it go on. But I mean, we know there have been oodles of fucking victims, and not just the children involved in this, right? I mean, he didn't mess around with 𝗣𝗢𝗟. A lot of people talk about, well, 𝗣𝗢𝗟 said Trump was never involved. Had it out with a bot on Twitter the other day, because a bot on Twitter responded to something with this paragraph of 𝗣𝗢𝗟's testimony saying Trump was never involved. He never got involved with me. I never saw him around the girls I was with. But you got to remember, 𝗣𝗢𝗟's dad worked at Mar-a-Lago. Okay, so Donald Trump was not ever going to fuck around with 𝗣𝗢𝗟 or even be around when Virginia was at Jeffrey's house. Trump was never going to go over there because her dad worked at Mar-a-Lago. He had to keep a clear separation from Virginia. And that's why it was, you know, Annie Farmer, Maria Farmer, right? It's Sarah Ransom. There were these other girls that, like, Trump got involved with. The one in Epstein's office, the late night when Trump shows up, that was Maria Farmer. So I'm sure they had a very clear separation, because part of the way you keep this going, guys, if you look at human traffickers, if you look at how this works, is they keep the girls separated, okay? If he has 30 girls that do this work for him, he probably kept them in 7 or 8 groups of 4, right? Because 30 girls coming together, you might have a mutiny on your hands. 3 or 4 girls, 5 girls, and it's like just a tiny manageable group. So they have a tendency to keep pockets of women separate. The same with guys who pimp out like cam girls. They will have multiple houses that house a couple of girls in each house because you don't want, strength in numbers. You don't want too many of them getting together because they might share stories and then there's going to be a rebellion and they're going to actually do something about it. You always have pockets of a very small, manageable, closed group that don't know any of the other groups. So if something happens, if one girl decides to rat somebody out, you can just remove those 4 and just get rid of that one pocket, right? You have to keep everything separate so you can't bring down the whole. Man, it's like mobster units too. Mobsters do the same shit. Cells, yeah. Terrorist cells, terrorist groups do the exact same thing. That's the way traffickers manage it. I mean, it's just so if one cell goes bad, you can cut the cell off and you're not losing your whole business, right? Why was a 16-year-old working in the spa at Mar-a-Lago? Because Trump's a degenerate. That's why. Because he's got a taste for teen girls.
The story has evolved, and he has acknowledged, one of the women was underage, and it was Virginia Giuffre. And this, to me, it seems very clear that Trump knew at least something about what was going on, but did nothing about it. And even the timing of when Epstein was when the breakup between them supposedly happened, even some of the timing of that is suspect based on what Donald Trump is saying, because it seems that he remained a member at Mar-a-Lago long after news of his activities had sort of become known. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But what's your sense of, are there people that are trying, you're guessing here, obviously, but based on your experience, do you think there are people that are trying to control what Trump is saying? Or is it, we're not going to be able to control him, let's just try to clean it up after?
I think that it's not even just in the case of Epstein. It's oftentimes with managing Trump, you're just reacting to what he says. You can give your advice and sometimes he'll listen and sometimes he'll take it. And I think that, those around him, I imagine those people around him are probably trying to help him throughout this situation. But for the most part, I think that Trump thinks that he has the pulse on his base and what they'll react to and what they care about. And so I think he usually just goes with his instinct of doing what he thinks is best to say or do at any given time. And I think that this scenario is the first time where we've really seen that he clearly doesn't have his pulse on it, and that he's reading the situation incorrectly. Because
that's really interesting what she said there. Did you see that, guys? I feel like what she said here is really a huge, huge deal, because prior to this Epstein thing, there's people influencing Trump and he may take somebody's ideas, but he just knew how to go out, feed the base. The base is loving him. He's got the base, right? And he just had them. He just instinctively knew how to do it. Right? He always knew what would placate them and keep them going. So even if he fucked up everything else, he could rally that fucking base. But on Epstein, he doesn't. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what to say. And the shit he said has made it worse. And he's like, why are you still talking about it? And then he's insulting the base and he's actually flustered. Because for the first time since he started this political journey, he does not instinctively know how to placate the large majority of his supporters. He's lost touch a little bit. He didn't realize how important this was. And he probably, I don't know, he's getting older, but he definitely doesn't know how to just make this better and make it go away. And that could be real bad news for him, because when Trump doesn't know how to instinctually make something better, he usually ends up just making it worse, because he's a bull in a china shop and he goes back and forth and switches his thing and responds in a moody way. And yeah, so the lies are going to catch up to him. He gets more and more impatient. He tries to like control it more. And so he's going to fuck it up. And yeah, he should be quiet, but he's never going to be quiet, dude. But I hope it ruins him, dude. I can't wait until he's dead. I'm just going to say that. He just needs to go. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, you know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.